Hello, my name's Richard. Welcome to my channel, Britain to Beyond, where my family has moved, at the moment, to Southeast Asia. We sold everything we owned in the UK and got on a flight. Took us a year. It was a lot of work, but now we're here. What are we doing here? Well, as you know, the UK's got many problems. We're not going to go into that. That wasn't really the overriding reason that we did this. We did this for our family. And we've been unbelievably surprised. And I can't get my head around this. The community that we have found in Southeast Asia for Worldschooling is actually more active than we had back in the UK. This is something I can't get my head. It just amazes me, because since we've been here, we've gone in Kuala Lumpur. We went to a homemade meetup where the kids played games in a cafe, and all the parents had a chat about what they were doing. That was quite good. And then when we moved on, where we are now, we've been to 3 meetups now. There was a picnic by the sea in a park. We've been to a cafe, which is also a library, so you can take books out, like an honesty library. And all the there was a park next to that, so the kids were playing in the park. They were inside playing games or reading. Fantastic. And the most recent one was at a water park at the Botanical Gardens. And lots of stuff happened there. You know, again, the parents all meeting up and talking, discussing their world schooling ideas and what they were doing. You know, people coming and going all the time. And things we saw in the park. Quite interesting. We found monitor lizards wandering around, and my daughter's obsessed with lizards. So massive, great big monitor lizards wandering around. Loads of monkeys. Now they're sneaky, these monkeys. If you leave a bag unattended, they empty the entire bag looking for food. And I watched them just completely disassemble a few people's bags. They were taking out drinks, bananas. They get into bags so quickly. They're so fast that if you've got any food in there, literally, it's a couple of seconds. They've disassembled the bag and they're eating whatever's in there. Impressive. And they're quite aggressive as well. So you can't shoo them away. The only thing we found that sort of stops them is if you get them wet near the pool and you hit them with water. They're not keen on that. Lots of butterflies. So we saw an Asian giant squirrel, which, if you're used to grey squirrels in the UK, the Asian black squirrel is just enormous. It's like a badger in a tree. So that was really interesting. So yeah, in terms of seeing new types of animals and seeing new things, Southeast Asia it's up there, doing it really well. But what's really surprised me is how friendly the community is. Today, we've actually we dropped the kids off for a couple of hours at a condo that was, I don't know, about 10 kilometres from where we are now. And we just went and had a coffee for 2 hours while they did some crafting. And the lady that runs that specifically does after school clubs for local children, and she runs like a little hub and activity thing for parents that are world schooling, because there's such a big community here of world schoolers. And I think one of the things I need to address is I keep getting comments like, have you met so-and-so that's a big YouTuber? And I'm like, no, I haven't met 1 or 2 of these really quite famous on YouTube YouTubers. Because for every one of those types of people that are out there, there's hundreds of other families that are doing the same thing. Everybody seems to think that when you move from the UK to Southeast Asia, that you're just an isolated family on your own, just doing your own thing and going around trying to sort things out. That is the absolute opposite of what I have found. When we first got here, I thought the same thing. I knew there was a community, but I didn't realise it was so active, and I didn't realise there were so many people doing it. So there's Facebook groups and there's WhatsApp groups for keeping in contact with all these meetups, and things happen 3 or 4 times a week. And there's a lot of different people moving around all the time. So if you think there's just 1 or 2 families in your local area doing what you've done, that's actually not the case. We felt quite isolated in the UK where we lived, because the homeschooling community was very sporadic. People would, you know, a group would spring up and think, oh, great, this is popular. A load of people would get sort of together Then after a while, it would, you know, a few weeks, people wouldn't turn up or they wouldn't commit, and it would just phase itself out and it would just stop. The community here isn't like that. It seems to be active, and it's been active for a long time. A lot of people keep coming back to the same places, so you get these cycle of people travelling around and constantly, continually meeting up. And I've been amazed at how welcoming they are. It really is a proper community here, and it far surpasses what we had in the UK. And it's not just people from the UK. There's Danish, there's German, there's French, Australian, New Zealand. It's not just one nation that's decided they want to do this. There's a sort of a collective need for a lot of these people from all around the world to do the same thing that we're doing. So I feel really encouraged that, you know, our journey has led us to meet all these other families as well. And we're not alone, because when we were on that journey trying to leave the UK, we did feel like it was incredibly lonely, and we didn't get much contact with other people that were trying to do the same thing. We used to get some comments occasionally on other channels saying, oh, we're doing a similar thing. But, you know, we'd never meet up or any of that kind of thing. And when we got here, you know, my expectations were low for meeting other families and how that was going to work. But it's absolutely, completely the opposite. We've been made hugely welcome. I'm amazed at the amount of families that have taken that leap. Because I used to think that, there's only like 1% of families that have decided to sell everything and just go all in and live in a cheaper country to find a better standard of life. That's not the case at all. So if you're in the UK and you're thinking of doing this, you're definitely not alone. There's a massive, massive amount of families that are doing this. Far more than I ever realised. And I was talking to an Australian guy, and he said a similar thing. He's been here for a number of years. And he said it was actually very rare to see, you know, a Western European here. It wasn't that common. And now we're coming over in droves because of whatever issues we have in our home countries. We've decided we want a different life abroad. And people have got so fed up in their own countries of what's going on. Again, there's no point talking about any of that. You all know what the problems are in your own countries. But people are fed up, and they're just moving to live a different life. And people keep asking me, is it difficult with kids? It's more difficult than it would be if you were single. I travelled Asia in 2011, and I went round, I forget the way around I went, but it was Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and I didn't even take a phone with me at that time. I just had nothing with me. Whereas now, there's people travelling around. Asia's changed dramatically, and there's a considerable amount of technology. They're all pretty forward countries now, and they're now more sustainable for families to live in. So you're finding that you're getting this big influx of us now emigrating to these hotter countries. Now, family life isn't easier in these countries, but what helps is having a better community. And when you've got kids that have special educational needs, a lot of them do, it may be that this environment suits them better than a school environment. School environments really are not set up for helping ADHD, autistic kids, or, any other forms of special needs, because they're often not obvious. Now, we've had issues while we've been here. We have the same issues at home as we have here. We have issues with food at home, and we've had issues with food here. For example, yesterday we're in a food hall. It only did sort of Malaysian or Eastern Europe, Eastern or Asian food, and my daughter was like, "I don't want to have rice. I don't want to have that," and it ended up her having like an autistic meltdown, like yelling and screaming in the middle of a food hall with everyone looking at you. And that's, as a parent, that's you find that, I find that quite intimidating. It was the same at home, exactly the same. It just took a lot of calming down, and we had a spillage of hot soup. It just, it's just one of those meals where you just think, I wish we hadn't bothered. But we had that in the UK, the same as we had here. So food was an issue in the UK, food's still an issue here. We are working through some of it. She has tried some rice. She has eaten the local chicken now, and she even tried some lettuce. So things that, you know, autistic kids don't like to eat. Anything foreign, the wrong texture, you know, the look of it, not, you know, they're not used to it. That's the issues that we have. But they're no worse here than they were at home. So the community here is fantastic. We've actually had more support while we've been here than we had where we lived in the UK. And I think that's the point, because wherever you live, the community is something to support you and it helps. Back home, we didn't really have that we certainly didn't have it from schools. There was no other help particularly available anyway. So coming here has actually improved our kids' standard of life, because they've got swimming pools. Wherever we live, we'll have a swimming pool. We've got lots of outside spaces. The parks and, you know, the splash parks and things here are vast, and I mean vast. They're just massive. There's so much open space. The sun is shining quite a lot of the time, you may have noticed. So they spend a lot of time outside. You've got to be careful with the heat. They get tired. We all get tired because it's pretty humid where we are at the moment. We're expecting some thunderstorms tomorrow, and maybe that will cool it all down a bit. But overall, the standard of life for our children is considerably better here. Better support, better community. So there we go. If you're thinking of doing this and you're worried about, you know, bringing kids along with you, it's actually a better experience for your kids. You'll get a better community. You get to live in a society that kind of enjoys helping as well. And I think that's it. We want to bring our kids up in a society which is kind and helpful. And at the moment, Southeast Asia is giving us a lot more than the UK ever did. So this is just my opinion. There may be people in the UK saying, oh yeah, well I've got this really good community back at home. Yeah, there are areas that do give a lot of support and have really, really active communities. But I've never felt anything like I've felt here. So if you're considering, you know, selling everything you own, going to Southeast Asia, I can recommend it. Your kids certainly won't be bored. The community is fantastic. There's lots of activities going on, and you've got to remember that the after-school activities and anything you do here is significantly cheaper than it would ever be in the UK. So if you're thinking about doing this, my advice is come over here for a holiday, meet some of the Worldschooling people, and you'll quickly realise that actually this would be a pretty good move. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Any comments about groups and things, put them down below, and I'll see you again in another video.